What's good, Julian? Just want to shoot this quick video to answer your question about hiring your first salesperson. I just got to start by saying I don't know what Loom is doing here. I feel like a beauty influencer with a filter on, but anyways, I'm going to push forward. So there's a couple things that's in your question here that I want to address. You started off by talking about the fact that it's client facing, so you feel like you could lose valuable sales along the way, or they might just not understand how to sell your service properly. So two things that I want to unpack there. Number one, you'll never hire anyone as good as you, right? Your staff are not you. You're the business owner. You've got a lot of knowledge. Over time, you'll train them to learn, but there's always going to be some sort of drop off. That's just something that you have to live and accept with. And as your business is growing and scaling, that's fine. I mean, you hire people to take stuff off your plate, right? So when it comes to sales, you hire someone because you don't have the time to run the process perfectly. We actually literally just hired a salesperson for Weber's yesterday. And the reason why I did is because I don't have the time to run the process properly, right? I'm not able to do everything that I need to in a CRM. I'm not able to send all the follow-ups that I need to. I'm able to jump on the call and close them very easily. But the little things in between that require a full-time attention, like I said, follow-ups, going through past contacts, making sure they have contracts, making sure that we're consistently moving them along through the sales process so we can get them signed and onboarded. These are the types of things that a salesperson can really come in and help out with. So I would say don't focus on the things like they're not going to be able to close as much as me, their product knowledge isn't as great as me, because you'll train them and they'll pick that up over time. And the more experience that they get, the better they're going to get, and they can take the entire sales process off your plate so you can just focus on moving bigger rocks at your agency. You sitting on sales calls is really not a good use of your time, and it's really not that complicated. So the second part of that you said, you feel like they might not understand how to sell your service properly. If your service is that complicated, then you're doing yourself a disservice because your customers aren't going to understand it either. You should have a very simplified and streamlined service offering. We call it a productized service offering, and as Skylar alluded to here, we'll be talking about this a lot more in January in the Blueprint Platinum. But if you have a complicated process in service, it's really hard to sell anyways. You don't want to be selling something that people don't understand. The simpler that it is and the easier that is to comprehend, the easier that the prospect is going to be able to understand it and align that to their problems that they're having and see you as a solution. But if you have to give a 45-minute presentation about all these different complicated things, then you're selling it wrong anyways. That's just a fact, right? We want to be selling more on the outputs, not on the benefits and the features, right? So the benefits and features being like, we're going to run this crazy technical audit and we're going to find all these things. Those are benefits and features. They don't care about that. They care about the outputs of it. So your sales should really be focused on that. And then, over time, your salesperson is going to pick up your processes. They're going to understand these things. It's really not as hard. I mean, don't give ourselves too much credit here. It's what we're selling is complicated. SEO is not an easy thing to fully grasp, but people will get it over time. And again, especially from the sales point of view, if you're training them the right way and they're getting the right experience, they're going to pick it up. So I would not worry about that too much. And like I said, there's always going to be a drop off in knowledge, no matter who you hire, because they're just not you. They don't have the intimate knowledge of the processes over time. So whenever you hire, there's a certain level of trust in understanding that delegation. There's going to be a drop off, but as soon as you get those things off your plate, then you can go focus on bigger things, because those things are more important. They're worth more time. They're worth more valuable to the business. And these smaller processes that you give to someone else, you'll just see that now what you're working on has so much more value that the business is going to grow even more because you're just solving bigger problems. So in regards to hiring salespeople, posting on LinkedIn is great. Posting in the Blueprint Jobs channel here, we're hiring everyone out of the Blueprint is a really great way to do things. But I think you also have to understand a little bit how to structure a sales team, because that might be a little bit more complicated. So there should really be two roles within your organization. Number one is like an appointment setter or an inside salesperson, right? Somebody who's going to basically go through leads and make sure that they're booking for an analysis or a consultation. And then the second person would be like a closer. Those are the people that get on the actual consultations, understand how to analyze somebody's website and give that person feedback more as an advisor as opposed to a salesperson, to ultimately get them interested in your service, get them a proposal, and then ultimately close them. So your first role is going to have to be both, right? They're going to have to be both the appointment setter and the closer. But the first thing that you should be doing, especially now during the training period, is you hire the salesperson eventually to be the closer, but they start as an appointment setter, right? So the things that I would suggest you do is make sure you have a list of things that setter can do. And I think this is also part of your problem, is that if you don't have enough leads to the point where you're overwhelmed from taking so many sales calls, and the pain of going through that is so painful that you have to hire someone, then it might not be a good fit to hire a salesperson. If you're hiring a salesperson and you don't have a ton of leads, then this salesperson isn't going to do a whole lot, right? It's not a sales problem that you have. It's actually a marketing problem. You have a demand generation problem. You need more leads in order for the salesperson to have enough to do, to the point where you don't have to worry about them not closing leads, because if they're taking 5 calls a day and closing 2 of them, then you know what their close rate is, and then you just got to get more leads, right? So it's actually less about the close rate and more about how many opportunities that they have and quality opportunities. So you need to make sure that you have a good balance between marketing and then the pass off to sales. I think even before you go through and hire a salesperson, because if you expect this person to just go out and generate leads for you, that's not what salespeople do, right? What a salesperson should be doing is nurturing warm leads, right? So for example, you should be running something like a webinar funnel or an ebook funnel, something to get people's initial contact information and get them in your ecosystem. You can then have that salesperson going through those emails and dropping them emails or adding them on Facebook and LinkedIn and sending them messages to nurture them and then push them into a sales call sequence, right? So if you don't have that kind of process set up, or you didn't kind of think through that process beforehand, then I would definitely start with having your salesperson be much more of that appointment setter. You still take the calls, and then have your salesperson sit on those calls with you so they see and understand the process, and then over time you can pass that off to them. So just keeping in mind not just who this hire is, but what it will grow into, right? And what your sales team and your sales department will look like as you continue to grow your agency. You need people that are continuously going out and basically taking the handoff from marketing, right? So after somebody comes to your website, you've got some sort of information. Now we can push that into sales. But if you're expecting these salespeople to just call on leads that are just coming in, once a week here and there, they're not going to have much to do, and you're never going to be able to fully train them, right? So you might want to turn your attention to a little bit more marketing and demand gen, or if you have enough leads, then just understanding what that salesperson's role is at first, getting them trained, and then putting them, on these client-facing calls. But honestly, I think just 2 things, like I said, is number 1 is just kind of breaking down that belief in your head that they can't do it or nobody else can do it as good as you, because nobody will ever be able to do it as good as you. Not that you can hire as an employee, right? But these people are people. They'll learn, you train them, and over time they'll be amazing, and you'll be able to pass off that entire department to them. But you just got to trust them. You got to let them make their own mistakes. You got to understand and accept the fact that they probably will burn some contracts that you would have been able to close, but that's fine, because there's plenty more contracts, there's plenty more opportunities. The market is massive. A lost opportunity is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because there will be plenty more. Again, especially if your marketing is aligned, and your service is aligned, and you have something that's scalable and repeatable, and again, is simplified and easier to sell. So that's kind of a long-winded 2 cents. That's why I wanted to shoot a video here for you. If you have any questions, man, just drop me a comment. Peace.